Welcome to Driven by Dreamz. Today's guest is Brad Chisum, the CEO and co-founder of EyePop.ai, a company pushing the boundaries of AI-driven insights. Brad's entrepreneurial journey began in 2006 and has taken him from engineering for the US Navy to co-founding multiple ventures, including one that successfully exited to Google. With a passion for building environments where others can thrive, Brad brings a wealth of experience in innovation, leadership, and startup growth. Let's hear how he's bringing ideas to life in the world of tech and entrepreneurship. Hi, Brad. It's wonderful to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
So, been an entrepreneur for most of my career. Started as an engineer out of college. Um, that was it was. I ended up being an engineer working for R&D for the U.S. Navy, and it was while I was there that I discovered I was a closet business guy, and I needed to figure out like how do I move to the business side. And I really specifically wanted to be an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur at that. So so since I didn't know anything about business, I decided to go back and get an MBA. And for me, that was extraordinarily valuable because now I had the tools to quantify if a business opportunity was a good one or not. I knew how to think about things, and it really kind of helped me move to that business mindset. But it also helped me out with something that was probably even more important than the skills, and that was the confidence that this was the right path for me. So yes, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I also, I was nervous about that path because I'm looking at these big successful companies, the stories you hear, right? And they have like, can I really do that? Did I have what it takes? Um, so I took a class called Entrepreneurship, perfectly titled for somebody in my position, at SDSU. That's where I got my MBA, and the professor was the third co-founder of PricePub, which is now Costco, right? So he did a really good job of helping us all understand what the entrepreneurial journey was like. Okay, so he did a survey. First day of class, he did a survey. It was a small class. There's only like 17 of us in the class, and so there's about 14 people that said yes, they want to be an entrepreneur. So his question was, do you want to be an entrepreneur? So 14 people said yes. Two people said no, and I was a maybe. And the reason why I was a maybe was, yes, that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know if I had what it takes to get it done. So the last day of class, he did that survey again, and the no's stayed no's. A lot of the yeses turned to no's, and I went from a maybe to a yes. So I was the only one that went the other direction. And while I never actually went and asked any of my classmates the motivation behind their decisions, I would guess that we made our changes for the same reasons. Because you can boil down his class into two important lessons. Lesson number one was that no, you do not have what it takes to willpower a company to success. You simply cannot. And even just, I mean, if you just think about it logically, that makes sense because you don't control the market conditions. You don't control what your competitors do. You don't even get to control who works for you or their performance. I mean, you can hire someone, but they can also say no. So you can influence, but you can't control. Okay, so now we all agree that none of us have what it takes to willpower a company to success, and we know the odds are against us. That doesn't feel like a very good proposition. So, but that's where the second lesson comes in. That's extremely important, and that is that there will be people that will come along and help you on your journey, and you have to believe that. Not only do you have to believe that, you have to be open to taking that help, because if you don't believe that, when things get difficult, then you're going to quit. You're going to be at high risk of quitting. And if you had just stayed on a little bit longer than the person or the situation that was going to help you out along your journey, you will have prevented them from arriving. And so that was an important lesson. And then if you look at the path with my first startup company, which we ended up doing quite well, but man, there are some times where it should have been game over, but a person or circumstance happened that saved the day. That was not somebody inside of our walls. So, and I can give you those stories if you're interested. But the point there was that was the moment that I decided that I was going to go do this entrepreneurial thing because I was like, okay, well, it actually, the lesson number one actually helped me out because I already knew before the class that I was insufficient to be able to do this job. So now I just realized everybody else was insufficient too. So now we're all in the same boat. And I bought into that. And I believe this lesson that people will come and help you out in your journey. And I think even that one, you can you just think about your own life. You can come up with examples where you wouldn't be where you are today if it wasn't for somebody else helping you out, whether it was a parent, a teacher, a friend, maybe somebody you don't know. But everything in life fits that model. So why wouldn't it also apply to entrepreneurship? And so those are the lessons that's what flipped me over to going down the entrepreneurial path, and never regretted it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing those lessons. Was there a moment before you took that class where you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like you mentioned that yours was a maybe for the survey. What gave you the idea?
Well, I probably, if I really think about it, I probably wanted to be an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid, probably ever since I can remember, because you know, you know, I had entrepreneurs in my family, and at varying degrees, and so when I say varying degrees, I mean various sizes of businesses. So my grandfather actually, and my great grandfather started a company that ended up becoming a publicly traded company. So that would be on the really big side, and my dad had a small property management business, so that'd be on the small side. Um, but I liked the mindset that that an entrepreneur has, where it's not just about making a paycheck. It's about creating something that provides value to other people. The one thing my dad was always proud of was that he was giving other people jobs. And so it wasn't just about the managing of the properties, it was about the fact that he was doing something that not only provided for his family, but also gave other people jobs. And he was always good at treating them well. And so there's a little bit of it's in my DNA. But I remember one time we were with my mom at the grocery store, and I don't really remember how old I was, but I'm going to guess around fourth or fifth grade. Um, where my mom made the comment that the food bill was one of the most expensive. If you look at what our family budget was, food was one of our more expensive items. It was housing, then food, and I just remember being really surprised that, wait a minute, food is like that's one of our most expensive things. And we're at the grocery store, and I'm looking at the grocery store, and I'm thinking, well, somebody owns that grocery store. If you own the grocery store, then then one, you're getting food at cost, right? And what a great way to you will actually be making money in an area that's most people's biggest expense, and so just it was the way to think about the world a little bit, that vantage point of being an entrepreneur gives you. So if I had to say there's a moment that may have been it, was that grocery store moment, but I think it's also been something that it's been celebrated in my family. Even most people in the family are not entrepreneurs, but those that are hold it in high regard, and it makes a big difference.
You mentioned some of the challenges when you started your business and someone came along and helped you out. So could you share one of those stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, my most dramatic one. So I had saved up. So my first company, what I did was I left the Navy and I licensed the technology developed at the Navy and left to go commercialize it. Right. So I had licensed that technology. I had saved up to go without a salary for a year. When you work, you can't negotiate with the Navy as a Navy employee. So if you want to license Navy technology, you have to leave first. Or at least that's how it was back then. So so I, and so I saved up some money, but then we're over a year into the business, and we still didn't really have any significant revenue. But that was going to be okay because we were negotiating an $11.5 million joint development agreement with the company out of Houston. So here it was just me full time. My business partner was still at the Navy, and we hadn't hired anybody yet, and we're going to have an $11.5 million contract, right? So it was going to be
Oh,
incredible, right? So, and I was finishing my MBA at the time, and I decided you can finish your MBA with business plan competition, so that's absolutely what I did. This company that we were negotiating with was out of Houston. I so I entered Rice's business plan competition. It just worked out perfectly that I was going to fly out there. I was going to give my present at the Rice business plan competition, and the first day of it, then go sign this $11.5 million contract, and then go find an amazing restaurant to celebrate at because they have those. And so what ended up happening though was I ended up eating a Whataburger because instead of signing the contract, they pulled the contract. Actually, already been funding it, so this was a big surprise. The contract was supposed to be more of a formality at that point, and more than that, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know anyone else. I didn't know any other companies in the space. I had no network contacts, and I still, still didn't have any money, right? So I'm running out of my savings, and so this was a very bad day. Then the next day, it was a Saturday, to go for the second round of the business plan competitions, and I had to delete my best slide, the one that said $11.5 million on it. And one of the judges from the first day sat in on my session, came to me afterwards and asked me why did you delete your best slide? So I tell him the story, and he says, well, you know what? This may have been for the best, which was baffling, right? How could this possibly be for the best? But then he proceeds to offer to give me CEO level introduction to every other company in the space. This is a small space. There's only about a dozen or so truly viable companies that could sponsor something like what we were doing. And so I was able to take that, turn it into a competitive bid situation, and the company that ended up winning that competitive bid ultimately funded us over $17 million. And so
Wow.
a lot of time that happened in there, but you got the short version. But 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 would you, if I had written my business plan and said that I'm just going to go meet somebody by chance that's going to give me CEO level introduction, and oh, by the way, he didn't take any compensation for this. He couldn't. He was on the board of directors of one of the companies he introduced us to, so it would be a conflict of interest. But um, but he, so that is the very definition of good luck, right? For something like that to happen. So that's my most dramatic example. But it was really fascinating because I didn't ask for his help. I didn't know to. I didn't know this guy. He came up to me. He offered his help, and the only thing I did was to make sure to take it. Right. So,
What mindset do you have to keep during challenges like that to make sure you continue persevering?
yeah, I think it helps to forget your statistics class so that you don't focus on the odds. And I say that a little bit jokingly. I was my undergrad degree. I was a math major, so it makes it. I have to introduce at least one math joke in there. Um, but the thing is, as an entrepreneur, you do kind of have to believe that you can beat the odds. And if you're somebody like me that's also grounded in, you know, I studied engineering, I studied math, just I'm not a whimsical person that's going to believe in magic. So how do you be the type of person that believes they're going to beat the odds, that believes these luck encounters can happen? How do you be that, even in the situations where things are really bleak? And I think the way you do that is you take a bigger view of the world. I kind of touched on it earlier, but if you think about if you think about your life and you think about the good things that have happened in your life, how many of those did you do completely on your own? How often did somebody else come out and help you on your way? And then why did they help you on your way? So you need to be somebody that others want to help, that want to be part of. So when you're going to go start a company, that means do something inspiring, do something interesting. If it doesn't get you really, really excited, then you're not going to be able to get other people really, really excited. More than that, the reason why, if you actually go talk to entrepreneurs when they weren't successful, quite often there's a part of them that quit along the way. So in other words, it's very rare, in my opinion. This is a really hard thing to get good data on, but it's very rare that a company truly just fundamentally fails. Maybe when you're a later stage company, but usually, if you're in the startup phase when building your company, there was something that occurred where the founder lost their hope, their belief, and they started believing the narrative of the odds are against you, your competition is going to kill you. So you need to hold on to this belief that you can be successful and do it by the fact that other good things have happened in your life. I really like telling the story of Dan, the person that came and approached me afterwards, because it's an example of something that had I lost that. I mean, other people would not have gone to compete the second day of the business plan competition. But I still believed my business was going to be amazing, even though I had no reason to think that. I had no money, I had no customer leads, and now I'm going to go and have to go talk about it in front of a bunch of people. That's not a very comfortable place to be, right? So, so it's a, it's there's another aspect to it, which is if you really are excited about it, you really believe it's important, then the success of the company becomes more important than your success. So, meaning that it becomes a mission that you are bent on making happen. And once you have that kind of mentality that it's a mission that you're going to make happen, you kind of don't really care what the odds are. You're just gonna keep doing it till it happens. So there is a book called "The Hard Thing About Hard Things," written by um, um, the Horowitz of Andreessen Horowitz. So I actually don't necessarily recommend reading this book before you started a company. It's good to read afterwards. It's a little bit of it's a heavy book, meaning that like it's not there's just a lot of hard things that he goes through. But Andreessen Horowitz, one of the bigger, more successful VC firms in the country, one of the things he comments on is that when he talks to his CEOs, the base hit CEOs will often comment that the reason they are successful is some innovation, something that they did, right? Something that they were smart at or better at than the competition. The really successful CEOs, their answer of why they were successful was that they just didn't quit. That was it. It isn't because they're smarter or better than other people. They had perseverance and they didn't quit. And I think that's just another way to look at it from, you know, beating the odds or believe someone's going to help you out on your journey. This idea that perseverance is, in fact, your difference maker. You really hold on to that and believe it, and you're hearing it from one of the most successful VCs in the world. So I think it's pretty credible. I think those together are the secrets.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Could you tell us a bit more about your current company?
Yeah, absolutely. So EyePop.ai. We are a computer vision platform that what our mission is really is to make computer vision effortless. Right now, if you're trying to build computer vision into your product or service, it's hard. You can do it. You can build a demo. You can do that. But if you actually want it to work in a robust way, it is really, really hard. And so the fact is, it doesn't have to be. And that's what iPop is about: is to make it such that any business can unlock the power of computer vision. You don't need to have an army of machine learning engineers the way you would if you're solving the problems the way Google would, right? You can do this with someone that has software developer skills and build really, really interesting things. And it's exciting because we get to see such a wide range of businesses. They all have the same technology problem, but they're serving completely different markets. And the for those of us on this team, that is one of the joys of the business is to get to in a small way get to be an enabling factor in somebody else's business um, and be that difference.
So, as more non founders and teams want to use AI, where do you think the biggest opportunities lie?
It is uh, it is the it is a hard one to know the answer to. I think the whole world is trying to figure that out right now, and it's hard not because it's hard because everything's moving and changing so fast that it's just how to keep up. But if you look at it, inventing AI, so the underlying models and all of that, that would be really really hard to get involved with now. You could go, you certainly shouldn't go start a company in that area. You go work for OpenAI or go work for Anthropic or one of those because I mean they've had it's pretty rare in that the amount of money, if you look at the amount of money that's been thrown at developing AI, the amount of money that's happened just over the past few years, is unprecedented. They have that much money going to something that still is not profitable at all, but record amount of dollars. That's a it's an impressive force. Where AI is, where solutions, where things aren't happening in the same way, is putting the power of AI into people's hands. There are some examples where this is done well. You can go use anyone can go use an LLM, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or any of those. You can use those more or less a better version of search, right? But if you want to actually integrate computer vision or any other type of machine learning into your products, that layer is still difficult. And so I think the real opportunities are the people that are going to be the ones that are responsible for unlocking the value of AI as opposed to creating AI. And there's two different forms of doing that. One is you're building the end solution. So maybe you have something that analyzes records better or makes predictions on scientific research or whatever you're doing, but you're getting really good at something narrow. That's a good path, but that would require that you're also an expert in that particular field. Or you are the last mile delivery type of approach, which is what EyePop is, where we are making a capability available to a wider range in a way that's really designed for somebody that's looking to do something in a business fashion and not just a cool demo or a one-off.
Finding product market fit is often where startups struggle. So, what was your process for validating the need for iPop.ai?
Yes, and so you're absolutely right about that. Now, and for full transparency, I would not say that we found product market fit yet. We are still proving that. So, but you look for product market full. So what this means is you have your little theory of the problem and the solution, right? And then you go test that theory. If you can't build it, which usually you can't at the beginning, you can still socialize it. So we did a series of conversations where I would go talk to software developers, I go talk to companies, and I would ask them, like, look, why aren't you implementing computer vision? And we'd hear, and we use that information to confirm. So it was and then after that, what we would do is we would do a series of brainstorming exercises that if you did have a tool like this available, what could you or people in your industry use it for? And so it was all about trying to understand from the perspective of who we thought the customer would be or candidates for those customers. And it's an easier thing to say than to do because you're biased. You're rooting for an answer. So you have to be extra diligent about making sure that you're asking the questions, in a sincere way, that you're not leading the questions, and then also really when you collect your data, whether it's in notes or you do survey results, when you look at those, really try to look at them with an objective eye, and that means quantifying things. So you do all of those things, and then the other part you do is you don't make any of these assessments in isolation. So one of the things that we did very early on, in fact, even before we had incorporated, we brought on some people that are domain experts. One was a domain expert in computer vision. His name is Anirudh Kool, and we would talk to him about what we're doing and get confirmation for somebody that's in the space for the see things. Then we also had somebody, his name is Ken Patashner, who would be more on the business side, and did leverage their insights to help check our thinking. Um, so it's really not unlike what you would do if you were writing a business plan, that you knew that when you turned it in, you had a hard professor and you wanted to make sure you got an A. And then the third thing is you go talk to investors. For a business like ours, there's no such thing as building a business like ours in a bootstrap way. We knew we were going to need investor dollars, and we are going to need to get significant ones at that. So go talk to the people that write those checks and see is this the type of business that you would fund? Um, there are great business concepts that VCs won't fund or very reluctantly fund, and so so just identify that those dollars are there, but that does a second piece, which is these are when you talk to a venture capitalist, you're talking to somebody that's seen hundreds, if not thousands, of different business concepts, and if yours has a flaw, there's a good chance they're going to be able to identify it and help you see it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Could you walk us through the AI that you use for iPop? And are you relying more on traditional machine learning or generative models? Could you share that?
It's a so we incorporate a lot of things, and you can kind of think of one of the roles that we play is the leading model or a set of models on a given week is always changing, right? And so that's one of the things that makes the space hard. So we've intentionally built a platform where we can rotate out the underlying models that we're using quite easily. And so we've done everything from develop our own approach to leveraging others' approaches. And now with the way things are moving so fast, we're going to be leveraging the work that's done by others more than trying to develop internally, just because of cost and if you're not providing additional value for that cost, why do it? But staying on top of what others are offering, that is you know that's a big piece of what we do. So what it means is that literally what models we're using and the frameworks we've chosen will change quite significantly over time. The outward facing version of a product may not, but what's happening under the hood will, and that's part of why we're valuable to our customers because they don't have to figure that
Well, thank you so much, Brad. I think this is a good place to start wrapping this up. So, if you could go back to 2006, where you started your entrepreneurial journey, what advice would you give yourself?
out. I don't think I would give myself advice, and here's why. There's things that I know now that I didn't then, where there can be a strength in ignorance and in having to learn it the hard way. That if you take that away, you may not actually like the results. So for instance, um, I did this. I went on this very ambitious path to go do that. I mentioned that competitive bid process that I ran. Okay, I did that as an individual person that had no connections, no history in the space, and I just decided that I did have the CEO level connections, but I'm going to go to these CEOs of publicly traded companies and say like, here's what we're going to do. I made a whole thing where it was, you know, it was you're gonna give me your memorandum of understanding by a certain date. You're gonna give me your term sheet by another date, and this got quite intense. And it also happened in the second half of 2008, which was a really bad year. The economy was falling apart. The companies I was dealing with were having layoffs, and I'm telling them they're going to be paying me millions of dollars. Uh, had I been a little bit more seasoned, I may have been like, you know what, this isn't going to work. I'm going to, go ahead and pack up and we'll wait till the economy gets better or some better times. Had I done that, we probably would have failed as a company because things didn't get better for a very long time, longer than the lifespan of our company. So the whole point there is, uh, I did something. I did not realize exactly how bold I was being, going to these CEOs and making demands, uh, um, and so it helped me to do it with a lot of authority. Um, I mean, just to kind of put a point on it, one of the companies that so we get his term sheets. They gave us the term sheet. I accepted one, rejected the others. One of the companies that when I rejected it, it was their chief operations officer that was leading negotiations. He got fired for losing the deal with us. Now that's how intense it got. That is I had no idea. I was not even contemplating that this would get to that level of intensity. And so I felt really bad about somebody getting fired. But at the same time, if I had real, it's a, I think you probably get my point on this one. But if, had I really given myself a lot of advice and things like that, it may have made me more cautious. It may have made me more aware of the reality of things. When it was actually better for me to go in a little bit, uh, not blind, but a little bit a situation where I didn't fully appreciate the magnitude of the situation. Um, so, yeah,
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, Brad. It was wonderful speaking to you today.
yeah, this has been fun. It's good talking with you as well.